A quick word of prayer. Dear Lord, thank you for this day. Thank you for the opportunity to gather, to meet, see each other virtually, although not face to face. It's good to be reconnected with our friends and neighbors. We just thank you for those who are on the meeting this evening, who are working in service of our students and our friends who are faculty and staff at our area schools. We just pray for their strength and their sanity right now, Lord, that you would be with them as they try to navigate through uncharted and troubled waters. Just be with them and help them to know that they've got the support of a huge community of supporters behind them. We thank you for those who serve us locally, our police and fire, and we thank you for those who are serving us in the State House and in Washington, D.C., and those who are serving to protect our freedoms across the globe. We thank you for them and pray that they would be reminded that they're constantly in our thoughts and prayers. In Jesus' name we pray, amen. All right, so I've lost my grid view and I don't know what happens if I put it back. Rick may take it back away from me. But do we have any guests? We did recognize Mr. Altmeyer, who's I think our newest member who I saw on the meeting. But other than our honored guests who are going to be speaking shortly, do we have anybody on who would like to be recognized? And I'll start. My wife Allison is on, but she's probably not going to turn the video on. But hi, honey.
I don't know if I'm worth being recognized, but I am a new member. Name's Roy Evans. Also go by JJ Evans. And this is my first meeting, so very glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Excellent. JJ, thanks for joining us both tonight and as a club member. We look forward to getting to know you. Thank you.
Likewise. Thank you.
Anybody else? Landry, you don't count.
I'm sneaking in.
I hear you. Good to see you. All right. I do see that we've got club member John Turner on. And John, if you'd like to say a few words, I might recognize you at the end if that's okay. Very good. Anybody else that I'm missing? Because I'm struggling to page through and see everybody all at once. All right. I am going to turn this over to Jimmy Conway to give us a quick update on the auction, live and virtual auction coming up here in T-minus 3-4 days.
Yeah, soon.
Soon.
I don't know what day it is, but I know it's going to be soon. All right. So I guess the first thing I really want everybody to do is we've been pushing emails and we've been pushing posts on social media, and some of y'all been contacted directly. What I really need everybody to do right now is, you're likely on a computer or a tablet or iPad, whatever it is. Please go right now. Stop what you're doing right now. I don't want anybody to be able to see me. Go to ECLHauction.com. And up at the top, there's a little button that says Get Started. And you can click that, and I would love all of you to register to bid right now. Joe Parisi just sent this out to everybody via the chat. If y'all could all do that, we're going to take about 30 seconds. Shouldn't take that long to put in your email address and a quick password.
All right, Jimmy, I'm slow. What am I clicking on at the top of the page?
It says, bear with me for just a moment because I clicked away. It says, start here. Let's start at the very beginning.
I'll just say
Very
start
good
bidding.
place to start.
Click on start bidding and that makes you register.
Good.
this one, everybody should at least be into the create account green button. So I'll just kind of start talking while everybody's working through that. So yeah, good news. Turns out it's Thursday, which means that our auction is going to get started on Sunday, this coming Sunday at noon. We're going to open bidding for our quote silent auction items. It's going to run through the week, and it will go all the way until Saturday at 7 p.m. Saturday, August 15th. You'll be able to bid away during that time. We have some really great stuff. Hope everybody's staying tuned to the ECLH Facebook page, as well as the event page that we have, which you can get to through the ECLH Facebook page. That said, once we close the silent auction at 7 p.m. on the 15th, we're going to have a little bit of a gap. And then at 8 o'clock p.m., we're going to open what our virtual live auction. There'll be a Zoom link that goes out later this week for people to hop on board, and we'll have something very informal, a lot like this, or like the meeting we had back in June, where, we'll all be on the screen. If you want to be there, you don't have to do it to bid. But starting at 8 o'clock, and there'll be a schedule that's sent out to everybody multiple times next week, so you know what time something's going to come up. I think the first thing that we have coming up is going to be a membership to the KC pool, right? So you're going to know that from 8 o'clock until 8:10, we're going to be bidding in 10-minute increments. You'll be able to bid on that specific item. So if you're not interested in KC, that's fine. If you're more interested in a one-night date with Nathan Trifone, you're going to be able to get that starting at 8:15 or 8:10. So you can put your kids to sleep, be eating dinner, be out at the lake, out at the KC, doing whatever you do on a Saturday night, and you'll be able to bid virtually, and you'll be getting notifications that bidding has opened for XYZ item. This is obviously a lot different than any live auction we've ever run before or that I've ever been a part of. But we had a lot of different options to look at, and we determined this is the best one because it gives people the ability to go about their lives as they usually would. And if they have something they want to bid on, they can hunker down and focus on it for that 10-minute time frame. One quick adjustment. I think I said 8 o'clock. It's actually going to start at 7:30 on August 15th. But outside of that, if you're registered to vote, if you're registered to bid, you're going to be getting hit with emails frequently next week, and we'll be posting stuff on social media, let y'all know if we have new items, if there's items that we really want to push up. Like for instance, we have a Tesla Model S, essentially a Power Wheels vehicle that was donated by our very own Rick Mosley. And I have a funny feeling that there's going to be a really big bidding war on this thing. It's a red single-seater. It has working headlights. It's the real deal. Rick got it direct from Tesla, not made by Tesla. You don't need a Tesla plug-in to use it. But that's like one of those things we're very excited about. Outside of that, I hope everybody's had a chance to register so far tonight. If you haven't, please do. We have some really awesome items. We're currently all in on this auction for about $5,000. That's a big difference because usually it's somewhere around the tune of 40. So we have the ability to make a lot of money. So stay tuned to Facebook. Be checking your email. We'll be taking our sponsors and our donors throughout the week. Thank y'all so much, and hope you'll have a happy time bidding. Chris, back to you. Any questions? Probably a good one to ask.
Thanks, Jimmy. I was able to get logged in and verified, and I can see the items, which is excellent. Big hand to Jimmy and the auction committee crew. They've done a fantastic job working through, originally having this all scheduled and ramped up to be a full-blown benefit concert and auction back in March, April timeframe, having to pull the plug on it at the very last minute due to the COVID pandemic. And we postponed it thinking, we'll be out of the woods by August and everybody can get back together and we'll do a big benefit concert and auction. It'll be back to school and back to the swing of things. And here we are. So, they adjusted midstream, figured out a way to do this virtually, managed to maintain an excellent list of items and experiences to bid on. So I'd encourage everyone who's on the Zoom meeting to join. Mark your calendars, get it on your phones, get a reminder to get online and check the link throughout the week next week. And then on Saturday, definitely jump on at 7:30 for the live auction. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. If you've got a cohort that you've been hanging with in the neighborhood and they're kind of part of your group and y'all get together from time to time, I think it'd be kind of fun to have a few friends together and watch the tote board live and everyone be on their devices bidding. And I think it'll be a fun experience. So thanks again to Jimmy and his crew for putting this together. Bill Boyd.
Yes, sir.
An update on box 4.
Yes. So last year with the Exchange Club community grants, we were awarding those right at the end of March, beginning of April, which if y'all remember back then is right when all this fun hit. So we made the decision, it was a tough call to really hold back and not award as much money as we normally did, because we had a suspicion that the auction was going to be pushed. We had no idea that Oktoberfest would be pushed, but it has been. So we're really glad that we made that call. But we did make one award, and we wanted to make it a very strategic award and a very important one. So we partnered with Box 4, which if you recall, about a year ago, they came and talked to us. So what Box 4 does, just super briefly, is they support our first responders. It's all volunteer, and they send out trucks to every 2-alarm fire. They try to make the 1-alarm fires during the summertime. They've been supporting the police with the protests, and they've got water and food and shade and Gatorade and stuff like that. So we made a $10,000 grant to help them purchase and fit out their NUA truck. They have 2 trucks. They had one that was an old retired ambulance, and it was just completely falling apart. And they've got their NUA truck in. Under normal circumstances, there would have been a lot more fanfare, but we can't right now. But they did make us a little video. It's actually about a 4-minute video. I put it up on our private Facebook group. Jimmy and team are planning on utilizing that for auction stuff. So I'm asking folks to not share it publicly yet. But as soon as Jimmy gives me the green light, would like everyone to make sure to see that, and then let's push it out, because it's a really neat deal. It's a really neat organization, and we were really able to help them out.
And yeah, that'll be pushed. We're going to start pushing that on Sunday. We wanted to make sure we were in the week of the auction before we started putting stuff like that out. That way we make sure we have people's attention, because there's going to be a lot of posts going out, and we want to make sure that one is highlighted frequently. So thanks a lot for working on that, Bill and Nathan. Really appreciate it. It's going to help the club out tremendously.
Yeah, that was a fantastic opportunity for us to make a strategic and significant donation to someone who does a lot of good for our first responders, which are obviously a big part of what we do at the Exchange Club is support our first responders. And so it was a kind of a nice tie in there that we could help them out. The video's great. The truck looks awesome. So yeah, y'all go check it out, and then we'll push that out publicly over the weekend. And again, because I'm not able to see everyone all at once, I don't know if we have Principal Jones on the Zoom with us, but if so, do feel free to interrupt me, and I'll give you a chance to make some remarks before we get started. Until then, I've got a school-related announcement that I'd like to make. This past week, the Exchange Club purchased a Golden Wildcat membership in the RISD Council of PTAs, which means that the Exchange Club is now a member of all of the PTAs of the schools in the Lake Highlands High School feeder pattern. And we're doing that in support of the Council of PTA's effort to have, a voice for every student in RISD. And there are 39,000 plus students in our district. So we're, just doing a small part, hitting up I forget what it is, 16 or 19 schools in the RISD pattern. But we're very pleased to do that. That may be overstating the number of schools, but somewhere along in there. Many of you are likely members of your child's school's PTAs, but there's no limit on the number of schools that you can join in terms of the PTA. If you are so inclined, you can join a bunch of the PTAs. You can buy one of these Golden Wildcat memberships, covers all the LH schools. They've got one for each of the high school feeder patterns in RISD. But I'd encourage everyone to take a look at that. It's on the RISD membership toolkit website. You can find the link to sign up and be a part of those PTAs. And that's a big help for the school district to have parent support, adult support in the community for the students at our schools. Golf tournament announcements. We've run this announcement out the last few meetings, but Family Compass Golf Tournament is October 5th at Cowboys Golf Club. You can register at their website, family-compass.com. The Lake Highlands High School Wildcat Club Cat Classic Golf Tournament is teeing off on October 12th around lunchtime at Firewheel Golf Park. That registration is at lhwildcatclub.membershiptoolkit.com. And I wanted to quickly give a quick shout out to Brian Haynes. He's the district executive director at the Lake Highlands YMCA, and I saw him earlier on my little bar of folks. Brian writes our newsletter updates after every meeting, and he's been doing that now for, I guess, about a year. He could certainly use some help. He does a great job, and it's a thankless job, which is why we're thanking him now. But it's nice having those recaps. That helps Rick have some content for the newsletter. But if you're willing to jump in and sign up for a week or 2 or 3, it'd be nice if we could set up kind of a rolling schedule of people to provide those updates. So give Brian Haynes or Rick Mosley at communications at lhexchange.org, lhexchangeclub.org, an email or call and let them know you're willing to jump in and help out. I think the next board meeting is going to take place before our next club meeting in a couple of weeks. One of the topics there will be if, when, and how we return to an in-person meeting schedule. We did the informal poll at our last meeting. We've got the results of those. Somewhat split. There was some good feedback and input on where we head in terms of meetings. So we're going to be talking about that and kind of considering what our best options are, safest and best options are moving forward. Okay, lots of announcements. I knew we would run right into our speaker time with all of that to cover. So I will now turn it over to VP of Programs Michael Bailey to introduce our guest.
Thank you, Chris, and good evening, Lake Highlands. If you guys are anything like me, the last few weeks, even months of your kind of day-to-day conversations have tended to revolve around what is this school year going to look like? So we're really fortunate tonight to have a program that will answer a lot of those questions. We've got President of the Board of Trustees and club member Karen Clardy, Superintendent Dr. Jeannie Stone, and Deputy Superintendent Tabitha Branum. Karen, I know you wanted to introduce our fine guests from the district, but let me just say, first of all, how grateful we are to have all of you tonight. I know this is, with school starting in less than 2 weeks, this is a busy time of year in a normal year, which this year is very much not. So thank you guys very much for being here. So before I turn it over to Karen, most of you probably know Karen. She is, as I mentioned, a club member and president of the Board of Trustees. Worked for the district for 25 years, most recently as an executive assistant at Lake Highlands High School, retired in 2016, after which she was elected to an at-large seat on the board. Now that we're in the 5+2 single member district model, Karen now represents District 5, which covers most of Lake Highlands and then some. So with that, I will turn it over to Karen to introduce our guests. Karen.
Thank you so much. It's so good to see so many familiar faces out there. I miss you guys, miss you all. When Michael first texted me last week and said, can you come and talk a little bit about what's going on and give us a back to school update, answer some questions. And when he said answer some questions, I kind of went, oh, I need some help. So I picked up the phone, and I don't know if y'all know this or not, but when you're president of the school board, you get this cool red phone, and you can call Dr. Stone directly because she also has a red phone on her desk. And so I picked up the phone, and you know what? Justin never told me about the red phone. He never told me that he had that red phone. No wonder he knew so much. So I picked up the phone and I said, Dr. Stone, I need some help here. I said, I've been asked to do this. And I said, can you help me? Can you do this? And I said, it's for the Exchange Club. And she goes, oh, the Exchange Club? Of course. Without hesitation. She said, absolutely, yes. And then she said, which was really great, she said, is it okay if Miss Branum attends too? And I went, oh my gosh, the Exchange Club's going to think I'm so cool that I have got 2 superstars coming to their meeting. So I am just so honored to be able to introduce both Dr. Stone, who's our superintendent, and Ms. Tabitha Branum, who is our deputy superintendent. These incredible women have been working on this from the very beginning in March when COVID started, day and night, weekends. There's been uphill battles and downhills, and they've remained positive. They've remained kind. You know, when I called and asked them if they could help me here, and she says, I'll do anything for you, and she really means it. So I can't thank you enough, Dr. Stone and Ms. Branum, for being here. I'm so grateful that you are here, Dr. Stone, to lead RISD through this pandemic. So it's all yours.
Okay, well, thank you so much for the opportunity to be with y'all tonight. And first, before I start, let me just thank you so much for joining our PTAs. That's awesome. I love that partnership and y'all supporting our PTA, especially in this time when our PTAs and everyone is trying to really partner from all aspects to support our students. I just want to express appreciation on our behalf for that. I do have a few questions that I know that y'all provided to us that y'all would like to have answered, and so I'll kind of frame kind of some of our remarks around that. And Tabitha, I've asked Tabitha Branum to be here with me tonight. Tabitha is our deputy superintendent. I'm not sure if she's ever had the opportunity to speak with y'all, but wanted y'all to be sure to know who she is, because she is my right hand, and also in so many regards the brains behind so many of the things that we do with curriculum instruction and all the areas that she supports. So the first question that was sent in to us tonight is that if we could just provide an overview of our blueprint. And many of the members may not know what that is, but if you're a parent of any students in Richardson ISD, then I bet you have seen it and have scoured over it and are aware of it. But and then to also talk maybe about the philosophy behind it. So what I would say, and thank you, Michael Bailey is posting the blueprint there for anyone. The blueprint is a big part of our RSD website right now. And I hold it in my hand in this form, which is kind of old school, but it's great for me to have it at my disposal to kind of flip to whenever I get questions or anything. But the blueprint is really what it sounds like. It really is our back to school document that we have been working on for months and months, really since let's see. So let me take you back in time. So we were all enjoying spring break back in March, although there was this thing that we had heard of a couple of weeks prior to that called COVID. I can remember the first time someone stopped me in one of the halls back in February and said, have you heard of this virus or what's going on? And I can remember that. And then we started gearing up to go to spring break. I know that probably many of y'all had spring break plans, and then all of a sudden they started to get canceled. And then we started seeing, okay, this is serious, this is real. We have students traveling over spring break. What are we going to do with that? Are we going to cancel those trips? And it really started getting real. And then, of course, we shut down indefinitely, and we remained shut down in terms of being able to be back in our schools all through the remainder of the spring. It's over 9 weeks, and that was obviously very unprecedented. It's been an unprecedented time for all of us. But as soon as we went into the summer months and realized that there was a good possibility that we could be in this state for some time, we really began working then around the very 1st of June on what would be the completion of this blueprint. So blueprint started with nothing because as you think about it, we've never had just an all virtual school. We've never had to stand up school in a way that we had to mitigate the types of risks that we would be challenged by. And so we just started working in teams of expertise. So you might think about the fact that we have our safety aspect of safety and security. We have our health services. We have our counseling services. We, of course, have our teaching and learning services. And everyone had to really start thinking, and this was the challenge that I gave to everyone. There was before spring break and the way that we did everything in Richardson ISD before spring break. And then there was after spring break of how we did things in the spring to quickly stand up our at-home learning. But then I knew that when we kicked into June 2020, if we were going to have to be at having this virtual way of doing school, that really couldn't resemble anything that was done in the spring. This had to be something that would be completely different. And so the blueprint was a way for us to focus all of our areas of expertise and really lay out our plans. So we had a task force that was put together that would really evaluate every single operation that we do in Richardson ISD through this lens of how will we deliver services standing up for virtual learners and for students whose parents wanted them to attend in person. And so how would we have this, these two kind of ways to deliver quality, rigorous instruction from this new standpoint that necessarily we've never done before. And so that's what we've been working on. That's what the blueprint is. So the blueprint is a 40-page document that details every single thing that we can think of about operating schools. And there's 2 sections. There's a face-to-face learning section. And then that goes over really everything that you might think of about. And a lot of that is through the lens of when students and staff members come back into our school buildings, how will we work to mitigate the risk of COVID-19 from ever getting into our school building? And then how will we protect through you know, the safety protocols, as well as all of the personal equipment that they'll need to wear and mask and all of those kinds of things. And our whole goal here on this section is keep the virus out of our schools to protect our students and staff members. And then the other part of the document is really around our virtual school model, which again, it doesn't look anything like we did in the spring. This is really all about how we can have a face-to-face, real-time learning going on so that if families choose that their students need to be at home learning in this virtual RISD, how will they still build connections and have the same level of rigorous learning going on, so that if they're going to be in a virtual setting for the entire year, we can ensure that they will still grow and get an entire year of learning and growth. So I want to introduce you to Tabitha. Tabitha, again, is our deputy superintendent, and she really led this task force and has fought through every single thing, or had people at her I mean, everyone was on board with this. This is really all we worked on this summer, because we want to bring our teachers back and we want them to be prepared. And so there's lots been the training aspects that have gone into this as well. So Tabitha, why don't you give these great Exchange Club partners just kind of an overview of some of the things that we really had to think of and and that they could find in our blueprint.
Thank you, Dr. Stone. And again, thank you to the entire Exchange Club for having us this evening and giving us this opportunity to share with you the work that we have done in the last really, 2 months to prepare for August 19th. And we cannot wait for August 19th. Really, I think Dr. Stone provided a wonderful overview of the content of what is in the blueprint. I will share that really, it really was thinking about everything from the moment that a student may be at the bus stop and how we rethink the way that students meet at the bus stop and how we ensure that social distancing is happening, to the way that they board the buses and that they are using hand sanitizer, all the way to how we will stagger our arrival times at our campuses. What kinds of dividers or protectors can we use on our desks? And believe it or not all of our elementary campuses or secondary campuses have the same kind of desks. So what kind of divider can we use that is going to be effective no matter what classroom they are and what age group, and identifying that, how we're going to handle elementary recess in a way that still allows students to get out and play, because we know how important that is for the brain and for the physical body, but also do that safely. So really, if you really look through the blueprint, you will see everything from water fountains to hallways and lockers, to the requirements for hand sanitation and hand washing, and how we're going to even train our kids. How are we going, believe it or not, y'all, I have a incoming kindergartner. And it hit me a couple of weeks ago after I was watching him wash his hands. And I realized that, like, if you don't remind him, like, he washed his hands in about 2 seconds, there were no way that they were clean. And so I had to reinforce, like, okay, what song are you going to sing every time you wash your hands so that you know that they're clean? And the role that we're going to play and our students remembering to do that all the time. And those kinds of things are in our blueprint. And then the only thing else that I would add is the community has been so phenomenal in reaching out. And if there are questions or clarifications that are needed to the blueprint, that we have taken those and we have worked with our strategy and engagement team to add FAQs. So all in the blueprint website are multiple questions. Today we just posted 2 new ones around what we're doing to ventilate our classrooms, as well as kind of the cleaning products that we've used. So it's a very dynamic FAQ that really is responding to what our amazing parents and our community are asking, and we want to provide those responses for.
I think the philosophy behind the blueprint was that we really wanted our parents and our community, but in particular our parents and then our staff members, to know what the best way that they could read of how things were going to be whenever we go back to this virtual school. Because I know that every single one of us on the call, we know what school is like. We know that everyone pulls in, kids get out of their cars, they go in, they walk down the hall, there's time that everybody goes to the restroom, and then as kids get older, they have more flexibility, passing periods, they have extracurricular activities, we know what lunchrooms looks like, we know all of the aspects of what school is. But in this new environment, there was a really this nebulous thinking about, well, what is this going to look like? How is this going to go? And with that brings a lot of uncertainty, apprehension, and fear, for lack of better words, about what was going to happen. And so if we're going to ask our parents to make a commitment about what they are going to choose for their students, we wanted them to be able to have this blueprint to read through as much as they could about what it could look like, what it will look like in terms of what will happen, and then be able to have that as the basis to make their decisions about what was best for their families. And so that was really our philosophy, was just transparency. And after we put together the blueprint, we shared it with teachers. We had teacher panels that looked at it and made all kinds of suggestions for us. We've made a lot of changes because we always like to see things through what we call our teacher's eyes, put our teacher's eyes on it before we finalize anything. We also shared it with parents. We had parents that looked over it, made great suggestions. We also had some physicians who work in our community. We had several NDs that took it and they looked at it through their eyes. And we had, of course, all of our health services and everyone, experts and consultants that were helping us with it. But it is a document that is fluid, because we know as so many changes have been coming in, we have to pivot and make some changes to comply with health orders or with new recommendations or restrictions. But that really is a lot about the blueprint, and we definitely want to save time for questions on that. There was a question about how the district is balancing resources as it incorporates virtual learning into its schools. And so, Tabitha, why don't you give them just some overview, some about the resources and really hitting on technology in this virtual learning environment.
Thank you, Dr. Stone. And again, this is an area that I think is such a testament to our leadership in Dr. Stone, our board of trustees, and also our community, who 4 years ago, really with the passage of our 2016 bond, recognized the power of technology and what it could mean for our kids to ensure that every kid had access to a device. Little did we know then, if we would have had a crystal ball, how powerful that was going, or more important that was going to be in this year, 2020. Because unlike what you might be reading in some other districts where they are having to make some emergency purchases and trying to locate devices, really RISD was really set up to successfully transition into this virtual environment. Did we have some challenges early in the spring with some internet access? Absolutely. But I will tell you again, thanks to our board and Dr. Stone, we were able to quickly identify some bond resources, some grant resources, and some state and federal funding, and we were able to procure over 1,000 hotspots. And again, we put in that order kind of right before spring break, not knowing for sure what would happen, but we wanted to be proactive. And so we were able to quickly get those hotspots in and begin to disperse them to any family that we identified did not have a hotspot. Over the summer, we have continued to build our inventory. And we are actually going to be sending out our follow-up to the commitment that was due today. We are going to be sending out a new opportunity for anyone that does not have internet access, robust internet access, that we are going to be able to support them if they are choosing that virtual environment or for the first 3 weeks. So again, we really have done a lot to invest on that hardware side. I will also tell you that we've spent a lot of time prior to even the introduction of the pandemic. We have an instructional technology team that really are experts in how do we design virtual learning in a way that's going to still be engaging, that's developmentally appropriate, because we know we don't want 5-year-olds or 6-year-olds on a screen all day long. It's not healthy for them. So what can learning look like? But we also support parents in that journey. And so our instructional technology team has been working with some of our expert teachers all throughout the summer to ensure that we have resources and materials and software programs that are going to be ready and ready for our students and parents to access on August 19th. So we feel that we know there's still going to be some challenges. We know that we still have work ahead, but we feel really good that we have an infrastructure and we have all the resources that our teachers need in order to successfully transition in these first 3 weeks to virtual, and then ultimately for the rest of our students who are staying in virtual at least for the first 9 weeks.
So for what 2 words that I think if you have been reading the blueprint, or we really have educated our community on over the last couple of months, are 2 words: synchronous and asynchronous. And so for synchronous, if you think about synchronicity, you think about that means that what we're doing right here, real time, we are conversing back and forth. We're working to provide y'all with information that you may not have known whenever you started this Zoom call, so that at the end, we really want everyone to see that that's what we're moving toward for this fall. It will be synchronous learning for grades. And Tabitha, why don't you spell out who's synchronous and who's asynchronous real quick?
Sure. So our asynchronous learners will be our pre-K through 3rd grade, and then our synchronous learners are going to be in 4th grade through 12th.
And what that means is, so let's take 4th through 12th first. That will mean that for let's take 4th, 5th, and 6th grade. For 4th, 5th, and 6th grade, they will start just like they start in the morning with their teacher, who will greet them, and they'll go over what is going to be covered today, and then they'll actually work through a schedule with their teacher, staying in synchronous learning for the day. Sure, there will be breaks, sure there will be lunch, but they will actually stay in synchronous learning on the computer until the end of the day. For our 7th and 8th grade, they actually will also be in synchronous learning, where they will be expected to report at the beginning of the day. Attendance will be taken just like it will be taken in all the grades. And then they will work through a schedule where they will go through each day with the teacher, moving from class to class, and there will be breaks in between. And then high school will also be synchronous, where they will be working through a schedule each day, where they'll engage with teachers like they do normally on a schedule, but it'll all be virtually. But what's different about junior high and high school in terms of that synchronous schedules is that we have adjusted to accommodate, to allow for fewer passing periods and at the high school. And we're also doing that in terms of our learning that we're doing virtually. So Tabitha, why don't you talk a little bit about how we have changed our scheduling at the high school level and junior high?
Yes, ma'am. So currently, or I should say in 1920, our schedule was built on, junior high was on a 8-period day, and our high schools were on a 7-period day. Well, we knew that as we went into thinking about how do we reduce the transitions, again, one of the, if you've ever been in one of our high schools or junior highs during a passing period, there's a lot of movement. That's a lot of kids walking from class to class. And we knew that that was going to be a time when we could potentially be putting our students at risk. So the high school and the junior high principals actually collaborated, and they had actually been talking to Dr. Stone and I for a while about considering what we call an AB block. And really what an AB block schedule does is it reduces, it basically takes, you take half of your periods and you do them on an A day, and you take the other half and you do them on a B day. So we call them even and odd days. So on your A day, you may have 1st, 3rd, 5th, and 7th. And on your B days, you might have your evens, 2, 4, 6, 8. And instead of having 45 or 50 minutes in a class period, now I have 90 minutes. Instructionally, even if we were not in a time of the pandemic, this is a really, really valuable schedule for a lot of our courses, like our science courses, where it's really hard to do a lab from beginning to end. In English, when you are working on developing your voice in your writing, or you're in the middle of a novel study, to try to do everything that you want to do in 45 or 50 minutes can be very, very difficult. So the 90-minute block will allow us to not only reduce those transitions and the amount of students that will be in the hallway at any one time, but it's also going to really be an instructional asset to our students in face-to-face. But then also when we transition that into our virtual learners, so I have a freshman who will be starting at high school. Instead of Kara's having 7 different teachers that she's trying to keep up with in a day and follow the Zooms and keep up with what they're doing virtually, she will now have half of those teachers in a day, which we think is really kind of a best practice for both environments. And our principals and our teachers are really excited about this new model.
So for the virtual, they'll have that schedule. And then for, again, the in-person,
Yes.
They'll have that schedule as well. And we decided originally to go with that for less transitions, less time where kids are changing classes and those kinds of things. But we also know it's going to benefit both the virtual and the face-to-face in terms of just balancing out each day what their learning is. So we've gotten a lot of positive feedback about that. I think before I open it up for questions, I think one of the big questions that we've gotten, and we're continuing to work with this, and this is one of the biggest challenges is, this is the question. It says, what data points is the district monitoring as it considers when it's safe to go back to in-person learning? Are there any bright line tests, or is it more the totality of the circumstances? If you have the answer to that question, then please let me know. But because I can't tell you anyone who does, including all of the experts and the medical professionals and authorities. And so, but one of the things that we have in the last couple of weeks we've been grappling with this for well over a month in terms of how would we make the determination. And as you know, if you follow the Dallas County, and currently we are under, the district is under, all schools in Dallas County are under a health order from Dallas County, our Dallas County Authority, Philip Huang, who was a Lake Highlands High School graduate, I understand. So celebrating Dr. Huang, but he is our authority. We're under this health order. And so the question is, how will we, Richardson ISD, make this decision? Will we just continue to follow Dr. Huang's advice? And I think that a lot of people don't know the complexities of all is involved in this decision. Let me just tell you. So what I will tell you is that one of the things that we've recently started working on is the Dallas County Health Order is for all of Dallas County, which you know is a lot bigger than just Richardson ISD. All of Richardson ISD is in Dallas County, but the order is for all of Dallas County, and our demographics and all of our area doesn't necessarily align with all of Dallas County. And so we've been talking each week over the last month with Dr. Huang, and he has put together an amazing panel of experts we have the head of Parkland, we have the head of, we have a head of staff for child psychology from Children's Medical. We have someone from Children's Health Medical Center that is over pediatric medicine. These are amazing experts. And while they're not experts in COVID, because I'll tell you one of the things that we've learned in the last couple of weeks is there is no expert in COVID. A medical professional only becomes an expert after they have studied one field or one area for 5 years. So we will not have an expert in COVID-19 for 5 years. But they do study epidemiology, and they're experts in certain fields related to virus spread and those kinds of things that have convened, and we have access to them. And so we've been talking with them about how we can make decisions based on a local context. So if you think about that, if you think about all of Dallas County, what we've done, and we're going to be sharing this with our school board in more detail on Monday night, so tune in at 6 o'clock on Monday night if you want to hear more. But basically the thinking is around, if you take the Dallas County, the entire map of Dallas County, and all of the data that they look at in terms of the whole county, then let's just lay over and look at just Richardson ISD's zip codes and see what the community spread and all of the data reveals to us about each one of the zip codes in our area, and see if we can make an informed decision about just our local context. So recently in the last week, Dr. Huang has provided us with very granular data that breaks it down by the zip codes in Richardson ISD that will allow us to see what numbers of cases that we've had in increments of 2 weeks, so that we can provide that data to our school board and to our community about where we really are, not just in all of Dallas County, but in Richardson ISD. So we believe that that's going to be a better way that we can track the data, track the virus spread, and make a better informed decision. Then it's going to be, after we have that data, it's really, that's kind of the what. And so we're working on the so what. And so the so what is really about how do we use that data to make an informed decision. And the great thing that we have at our disposal is this panel of medical professionals that we can rely on to help us to look at that data of our local context and make an informed and good decision that they can help us with. And so that's really, I guess, the way that right now that we're working with that. It's hard to put a hard line number, a bright line number to that right now, but we're getting closer to where we can make informed decision based on data from within the district rather than the whole county. So I hope that helps to answer some of that question. So I think now I don't know how long y'all want to go, but I do want to see if there are really any burning questions that you can put those in the chat box, and Tabitha and I can monitor those, because there may be some specific questions that are coming from you all that you would like to either answers on to tell your spouses who are waiting. Maybe they're asking questions around the breakfast table that you would like to get answered, and so we want to just be here for y'all to see if we can help y'all with anything that's burning, either in your home or in the community. If you have any questions, or if someone wants to facilitate that, or if you, I'll just turn it back to y'all for that, if y'all want to see about any questions we can answer for y'all.
Sure. So one question just hit the chat. What circumstances would lead to a classroom or even a school-wide closure?
Yep. So we really work with the CDC, and we have weekly meetings with them, and they have very clear guidance with us about that. And we have our health services expert, she's our own Kimberly Clark, and she is a registered nurse, but she also talks almost daily with the Dallas County Health and Human Services and the CDC. But Tabitha, do you want to give them just kind of really kind of the high level about how we've been guided about how we'll work to make those kinds of decisions?
Yes, ma'am. So as soon as we have a student or a staff member that either we feel has been exposed or has a positive test, then we have a very tight protocol that has been developed in combination from the CDC, our local health authorities, as well as the Texas Education Agency. And basically, we go through a series of contact tracing. And that contact tracing really asks a series of questions to determine the level of risk. For example, were you within less than 6 feet of anyone for an amount of time more than 15 minutes without a mask on? And so there's a series of questions that we go through. Based upon the outcome of each and every one of those contact tracing, investigations, then we look at the number of students that were potentially impacted at a classroom to make a decision regarding, is it that we are asking an individual student or a group of students to quarantine, or if the number is significant enough, is it that whole classroom? And then the same thing goes in terms of the impact for a grade level or for an entire building. In the blueprint, you will see a lot of messaging around the term cohort. And the development of our cohorts are so incredibly important in order to allow us to do quick, effective contact tracing. So again, if an individual student or a staff member does report a potential infection, we are able to identify very quickly who all did that staff member or did that student interact with on a given day, so we can effectively conduct that investigation and ultimately bring forward a recommendation to Dr. Stowe.
And then when would we close down a school?
So we would close down, actually, we would, in terms of, there's not a specific metric that we would use, and I know some of you may not like that feels soft, but ultimately, for example, let's take a small campus that has, White Rock has over 1,000 students, where we may have another campus that only has 350 students. So in terms of the impact, we have to look at every situation individually and determine, based upon the risk factor and the outcome of the investigation, at what point do we close an individual classroom, a grade level, or a campus. That decision is not just made individually, that is made in conjunction with our local health authorities, who we report, hey, here's the situation that we're in, here's the outcome of our contact tracing, here are the number of students that were impacted. Do you have any recommendations for us in terms of the volume of the closure that we have to consider? So again, you won't see specific numbers in the blueprint of when you hit this amount of students impacted, do we close a classroom or a campus, because it really does truly have to be looked at on an individual basis.
One of the things I want to share, and I had gotten a text about this, was, and this is one way, and I know one of the questions is, how can y'all help us? It's just really kind of an understanding about some of the reasons why we've made the decisions that we've had. And one of them is around masks. So as we have been in consultation for the last month, and specifically, I mean, literally on 3 different calls last week that were convenings of medical professionals, without exception, there has not been one of them who has not encouraged us to do everything that we could to have masks worn by everyone that we could at all times. And so we have just this, in the last 2 weeks, come out with the fact we will have a universal mask requirement. And the reason that we feel so strongly about that is for this reason. So parents have a choice whether or not they want to keep their kids at home because they feel that they can be safer at home away from school. And currently our numbers are, in terms of the parents who have submitted their confirmation, and we're still awaiting quite a high number of those to come into us. But currently, to those who have expressed that, we're over 50% of our parents who have said that they will keep their kids at home. And so they have a choice, and we want them to have a choice. Teachers don't have a choice. Staff members don't have a choice. Because we're in a situation where we will stand up to be able to receive funding, we are required to stand up the option for parents to be able to send their kids back to school for 5 days. And so for us to be able to staff that means we have to have our teachers back in person with us. And a lot of them are very nervous about that. And so, because they are really considered to be essential workers, if you think about that. So to be able to fully protect them, we've been told that the best way to do that is to have double masking. And when I talk about double masking, I don't mean wearing 2 masks. I mean that I'm wearing a mask and I'm facing you and you're wearing a mask. And if the 2 of us are working to have this social distance as well as masking, then we believe that is the lowest. We are lowering the risk dramatically in terms of spread of the virus. And remember, the goal is keep the virus out of the school and away, especially from our staff members and students. And so we are going to be very, very strict about our universal mask requirement. And we know that there will be some situations we're not going to have, our little kids outside at recess and require them to have a mask on. And there's some, certainly when we're eating and things like that, we're going to have some other things to keep students safe, such as plexiglass partitions and those kinds of things. But in terms of at high school, in terms of those students who are, again, every student will have to have a mask with them when they come into the building, and there will be a good majority of the time where they must be worn. And that is just in protection of our students and staff members, in particular those adults who are going to be required to be teaching face-to-face, who are fearful because they themselves may have health conditions or they may have health family members at home. They want to visit their parents on the weekends. And so we're doing everything to mitigate the risk for them as well.
On a lighter topic, there's a number of folks here who would love to get into Lake Highlands High School and get a look at the new multipurpose activity center. Is there any plan or thought in place on when you might be able to safely show that off to the community?
Well, let's see. Well, I would think, first of all, that would have to be after we're allowed to return to anything face-to-face. That would be one thing. But once we are allowed to return face-to-face, I'm just going to go out there on a limb, because y'all are so good to us and y'all are so awesome to always, the things that y'all do for us. And I've been remiss in expressing gratitude for this club and the scholarships and the donations, all the things that y'all do for us. Joining PTA, I will tell you that once we are on back to where we can welcome, have face-to-face anything, we'll get something scheduled where we can host y'all and show off. First of all, y'all can be some of the first to see it, but then beyond that, we want to have the opportunities to show off so many of our new construction and to thank the community for the support that they provided through the bond and such. And so we look forward to doing that, although we also know we have to limit a lot of that in terms of visitors into our buildings and face-to-face events. We're still working through what we're going to be able to do, and hopefully we're going to see our trending data continue to go downward so that we can get back to lots of face-to-face things.
Maybe we'll limit this to one or two more. We want to be respectful of your time. Are there any resources that you guys are able to make available to kids to deal with the emotional aspect of the coronavirus and the extended quarantine and finishing last year at home and starting this year at home?
Absolutely, and that's a great question. I'm really glad that you brought that up because it is absolutely top of mind and one of our top 5 priorities. So when we know that I mean, I don't know how many of y'all have kids at home, but they have not been in school since really early March, and that includes all of the spring and then all of the summer. And so for us, and one of the things that we're really, really talking about in terms of our training and expectations for our teachers is to not to expect that will not have some type that will not have that won't have an effect on our students. And so they can't be expected to just come back in and just be the same students that went off to spring break in terms of their routines and remembering like what it means to walk down the hall and the expectations. So there will be extra time for that, just building that in and allowing for that transition back into just what school is like, right? So there's that. Those students who are staying at home, we know that they're going to continue to be in this state where they're not having that regular contact. So we're really, really upping our game in terms of our offerings and doing a lot of very intentional things to build in opportunities with our counseling services to meet those social emotional needs. Tabitha, why don't you tell them just some of the special things that we're going to be doing that we've had a task force, part of the task force that has been working in that particular area really all since summer began. So why don't you talk some of the things to meet those needs?
Thank you, Dr. Stone. So yes, I don't know if I know all of you have been watching Dr. Stone's weekly videos, and one of the feature videos that she did earlier this summer was actually addressing this very topic. And really recognizing that for many of our kids, they have gone and experienced kind of that grieving process, that recognition of, hey, this is what I thought my experience was going to be. And again, think about our seniors, our rising seniors this year. We know they're going to experience, many of those same kinds of feelings. So our counseling team have been working around the clock to ensure that we have some really amazing curriculum pieces that are available to our teachers and to our guidance counselors, so that when our, guidance counselors working at the elementary level, or another change you're going to see at our secondary level is the introduction of advisory. So all of both our junior highs and our high schools in the Lake Highlands feeder will be implementing an advisory. And the purpose of that is to be able to address these kinds of topics, to allow kids to talk to one another, to have adults be able to lead them in these conversations and provide those resources. And it's important that we recognize that sometimes our students or sometimes our parents might even need some support and some outreach outside of the normal school hours. So there is a RISD counseling hotline that is provided, and it is available to our community really 24/7. It is manned by our RISD guidance central office team, and what we commit to is ensuring that if there is a need, we are going to connect family or that parent with the resources that they need to successfully navigate whatever trauma or whatever they're experiencing. So I think you are going to all see evidence of a really intentional approach to ensuring our students' social and emotional needs are being met while they're still experiencing this uncertainty, and they feel it, they hear it in our conversations, they hear it on the news, and we want to make sure that we lead them through that.
Okay, we've got one last audience question, and I think we'll call it here. Particularly as we move later into the fall and start moving into flu season and cold season, do you guys have any guidance yet from the medical professionals on how to treat students who show up with symptoms that could be COVID, could be common cold? How do we balance kind of protecting everyone from COVID versus, not piling up a ton of absences unnecessarily?
Sure. Tabitha, I'll let you start and then I'll wrap up in the end.
Sure. So this is actually a topic that was of great conversation even a week ago, because we are still, they are still continuing to refine those symptoms. And those symptoms that as parents, you are going to have to submit a weekly health screener for your child, and our staff is asked to do that daily. And those symptoms are constantly changing. And so one of the clarifying questions that we are asking on our weekly call, I will tell you my 5-year-old, and Dr. Stone knows this, at least 2 or 3 times a year, he's going to have an ear infection, strep throat. Like, he's just at that stage. And so every time that he has an ear infection, is he going to have to stay home for anywhere between 5 or 10 days? Right now, they have not given us clear guidance. Right now, it is if a student presents those symptoms, then we need to follow the contact tracing and determine the risk and make a determination on whether or not that student or staff member has to quarantine. But I assure you, we are asking that. We have weekly calls, and we are asking for that clarification and that continued refinement to try to help discern the difference between a common cold and what is potentially COVID. But right now, we are treating all of those symptoms that are on that health screener equal.
And I invite you to read through the blueprint. We have so many things in place, and we're actually coming up with lots of new things. We're stealing lots of things from other school districts, but we're also developing a lot of things internally. I want to give just props to another group of our people that have been working. It's our data analytics psychometrician guru people that think a whole lot differently than I do. And but my goodness, we need them. And they have developed for us, it's an app that I have mine right here. And every day before we come into the building, we actually have to scan something, and we have to answer a series of questions about symptoms, and we have to, our temperature and everything. And we can't come into the building unless we have a green screen. I don't know if you can see this, but I just pulled mine up because this is my green screen. The green screen tells me that I'm okay to come into the building. And as I move around the district and go from this building, I check out of this building, I go to another building, I go to a campus, and I check in and out as I go. What this does is not only give the person who's checking us in at the building confidence that we're okay to come in because we don't have a fever or those kinds of things, but it also allows for us to trace where we've been. So the reason I share this is just one example of the many things that we have in place to keep the virus out. I want you to remember that that is something I'm going to be, if you don't remember anything tonight, just remember Richard Tenisty is committed to keep the virus out. It's so that if there is a staff member who does start to show symptoms or test positive, we can immediately trace who all has been in contact with them in the period of time that the health officials tell us, so that we can then see who needs to be quarantined, who needs to know that they were in contact with somebody, so that if they are, then we can keep them out, thereby keeping the virus out, away from spreading it to staff members or students. So we have so many things that we have developed or in place, and the reason why I brought this up, and my closing thing that I'd like to share with y'all is just my high level of confidence that I have that we're going to be able to have students connect and learn and grow and succeed this year. And that goes to our fantastic teachers. Teachers know how to teach. They know how to teach. They were born to do it. And so many of them, you know, are the greatest of the great in Richardson ISD. And they are committed. They want their students back in the classrooms, and be it virtually or be it in person. This is going to be a great year for Richardson ISD and the students that we're welcoming back on August 19th. And we're committed to have a culture that is warm and inclusive, that builds connections, so that students will look back and we can look back and see that that they did grow and learn this year and receive a full year of growth and learning in the school district. And so I want to just say, support our teachers and believe in them. They need support. They need backing. There's a lot of fear and apprehension about, but then so many of them just want to get back to their kids and the jobs that they love. And so full support of our teachers. We have the best of the best in Richardson. And but we've got this, and that's our mantra for the year. We've got this, Richardson ISD, and just appreciate this partnerships like with y'all that are supporting all of us, and especially our teachers at this time.
Excellent. Thank you, Dr. Stone. Thank you, Ms. Branum. Karen, thank you for bringing your friends along, tapping them on the red bat phone and bringing them out tonight. We really appreciate it. We're very thankful for all that y'all are doing to make sure that our students, our teachers and staff and everyone is able to get back into the learning process as safely and effectively as possible. It certainly seems like a no-win situation, kind of given the ubiquity of the virus and the risk that it poses for certain people. So we do have your back. We're fully supportive of what y'all are doing, and hope that I feel like y'all have done the best you can to figure out the best way to make this a success. So thank you again. And we really appreciate the time this evening, the answers to the questions. As always, y'all are very much appreciated. I mentioned Ms. Fishkin on the chat. I saw that she had joined us later in the meeting, one of our all-time superstar teachers at Lake Highlands High School, certainly representative of those best of the best teachers that we have in RISD. Lake Highlands is certainly lucky to have it's more than its fair share. So we're very thankful to them as well. Luke and JJ, thank y'all for joining the club and for joining us this evening. Good to see y'all. A few quick reminders. Let me do this. I did see John Turner and Adam Magoo. John, do you have anything you'd like to share with us before we get out of here?
Well, I'll just second what you said about appreciation for the efforts that are being made in RISD and Jeannie Stone and Tabitha Branum and Karen Clardy as well. If there's a harder time to be in the roles that you are in, I can't think of what it is. This has really been incredibly challenging. And I know you're working night and day to try to make this year as successful as it can be. And it's going to be hard. We've got a lot of challenges here that we're facing. And I guess the only thing I would add substantively is, from everything I read, our success in being able to go back to some level of in-person learning this year is really going to be dependent on getting the transmission rate down as much as possible by the time we attempt it. And so all the attempts that we're collectively making, that I know members of this club are making, and wearing masks and trying to keep distance and avoid transmission type settings, and that multiplied by the rest of Dallas County is really going to be critical in whether we can, I think, be successful and sustainable in reopening schools. And so we can think about that as an extra motivation for what we're trying to do. And without doing that, we may not have too many good options here in terms of how well things could go in our schools. But if we really put our shoulder to the wheel and continue the progress we're beginning to make, I think, but really accelerate that progress, that certainly increases the odds of success in what we're trying to do. It is important to get our kids back in school. We all want that, and I know that for sure as a dad myself. And but we truly do appreciate the efforts of RISD in preparing the way for a good experience for our kids in these circumstances.
Absolutely. Thank you, John, and thanks for all you do to support our district and our schools and all those that you serve so selflessly. Adam, I saw that you had joined us as well. Councilman Magoo, do you have anything for us? You want to follow up on your Facebook post about the trash services proposal?
Well, I'll first jump in there and just join my thanks to Dr. Stone and Tabitha and President Clardy. It's amazing times, and we appreciate all your efforts. Who would expect this is what you'd be navigating through? But yeah, biggest ticket item coming up is next week. Actually tomorrow, I get the budget briefing, and so we are in the middle of budget season. We start town hall meetings, virtual town hall meetings next week. There's a very real effort to impact our funding in public safety. We need people that are willing to show up and advocate in these discussions. Please do so. They do take notes at these budget town hall meetings about who all shows up, how often, what their comments are, plus, minus, whatever. And hopefully that'll influence some of the discussion on that front. And then, yeah, the most recent was this push from city staff to, it was originally a discussion about bulk trash and brush, with a large push to start requiring all of us to separate our bulk and our brush, and maybe do alternating pickups, and whatever it'll be really confusing, and but trying to be more efficient with all that. So there will be some changes coming to brush and bulk that are probably inevitable. However, in the middle of this briefing, and I don't know if Mark Holmes is here still, but he was with me, sitting next to me while we were down at Bonton having a meeting, when I heard this new information that they were going to start trying to require 100% front curb pickup across the city. And obviously that's just a no-go up here. Many of our streets and neighborhoods were designed around alley pickup. I will advocate that way. There are several council members that are supporting this change, and so it'll be more of a discussion. But look, where it makes sense to make the changes, absolutely do so. The point is they want to try to move to more automated trucks, so we're not dealing with more and more people having to load the back of the trucks, but using the automatic arms. And where we can have automatic arms in the alleys that we currently have, and we should use those and not make some kind of one-size-fits-all rule. So that's just one of the many things that we'll be advocating. Biggest thing, though, is please stay engaged with the budget discussion coming up. We need strong advocates stamping up for what we need in our communities. Appreciate all of y'all.
Thank you very much, Adam. We appreciate you and your service and keeping us informed about things. Always very helpful. Our next meeting will be Thursday, August 20th at 7 p.m. via Zoom. Again, the board will convene, I believe, the Thursday after that meeting, and we'll have a discussion about what the next steps are in terms of our meeting schedule and whether we're in person or virtual or both on a going forward basis. We'll try to plot that out at that time, and hopefully we'll have an update for you at the next meeting. I think would be the first full week in September. So don't forget the auction. We're going to say it and beat you over the head with it from now until it's over, but be sure to log on. We kick off on the 9th, which is Sunday, and we go through the 15th with the live auction, culminating in the live auction on Saturday evening. So check that out. Great items to bid on, bid early, bid often, bid high. As Jimmy said, we've got the opportunity to make some money here because of the limitation of our cost side on this auction. But for us to do that, it requires everyone to be involved and engaged. And this is going to be likely our only fundraiser for 2020. We're working on some options, but probably won't be able to deploy those until 2021. So this may be it. And we'd like to, fully fund our scholarships the way we do every year. We'd like to be able to fund some community grants this year. Obviously, there's plenty of need out there under the circumstances. So we can be a big help, but it's going to require a great effort in the auction. So since this is my last opportunity to push it, again, bid early, bid often, bid high. And join the RSD Council of PTAs. As you can tell, our school district does a great job for our students and our staff, and we can do our part to help them by joining the Council of PTAs. So jump on there and join that. Again, thank you to our guests, Dr. Stone, Ms. Branum, and Ms. Clardy. We really appreciate you. I've got a special place in my heart for Karen. When I was a young pup on the board doing the scholarships and doing the youth of the month and character counts, she kind of held my hand and helped me navigate Lake Highlands High School long before I had kids that I even thought would ever be in high school. So really appreciate her, and thanks again for all y'all are doing for our community and for our students. So with that, we are adjourned, and as always, you're welcome to stick around on the Zoom and chat and hang out and happy hour. I am unfortunately going to have to excuse myself, but thanks again to everyone. Appreciate y'all being here.